You are watching Matt's Minis, a Louis Lafleur program. This is a free episode available due to the graciousness of Mr. Lafleur himself. Please support the Patreon at www.patreon.com/LLPQ to watch all Matt's Minis episodes, including ones from past seasons, and other wonderful programs.
These are Matt's Mini Movies, presented by Mr. Louis. These are Matt's Mini Movies, presented by Mr.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Matt's Minis, presented by Mr. Louis Lafleur. I am Matt Johnson. This is for the week of November 7th, 2025. This is going to be my last one before I got to do a little Thanksgiving break, because I'm going out of town. Might be a few more weeks before you see another one, so savor it. For my first movie of the week was called Happy as Lazzaro by a Rohrwacher, 2018, Italian woman who I know made La Chimera, whatever it is, with Josh O'Connor more recently, which Megan watched and loved, which I didn't watch, which I should watch. But downloaded the rest of her like trilogy of this type of movies, I guess. I don't really know anything about that one, so I watched this one, and then there's another one that's even earlier. Yeah, basically about like this whole little village that is kept as slaves, basically. I don't know when it's supposed to be set in the beginning, maybe like 70s or 80s or something like that. Working out for this like noble woman. Can't remember what they call her, like a baroness or something. Where they're basically just tending to and harvesting all of her like tobacco plants. They're going off and selling them and making money, and this whole little village of people just has no idea, and they're like so isolated. At some point in the movie, it's like found out about. It's a movie of two halves, basically. For the first half, you're just like, yeah, okay, these people are just being treated horribly, and it's almost like dog toothy, you know. You're just like, oh, they're just being taken advantage of and taught nothing of the world or anything at all, basically, and only have their little knowledge that they tell to each other. And then the second half like jumps forward, but Lazzaro doesn't age. Like, he's still the same. This little boy that's basically like the whipping boy, almost like the little kid that does everything for everybody. Then he gets thrown into the more modern world with the rest of his village family, you know, and they basically have become like homeless grifters or something. And yeah, it just kind of devolves from there. Did not expect what this was going into it, and for the first half I'm just like, what's the point of this movie? And then definitely becomes something totally different where I was fully engaged and enjoyed it by the end. Definitely raises lots of questions, and you're just like somewhat surreal, and there's just a lot going on, and it was a fun watch. For my Matt's Minis, automobiles and movies. Okay, so early on in the beginning, one of the noble guys is coming to take all the tobacco from them, driving this. His name is Nicola, and he's driving in this red truck, and it says Lupettos on it, and I don't no idea what that means. Also comes later on and just driving this little dirt bike motorcycle looking thing that's a little kid goes and grabs the mirror off of and runs away with. When we jump into the future, much more mobiles. They're in like a bigger city. I don't really know what city they're supposed to be in, but some of the dudes are driving around this little 3-wheeled truck where they're going and stealing stuff, basically, for the purposes of trying to like hawk it and make a little bit of cash. That was about it. I forgot there's one other thing when they're in the village still, there is a spotting of a Lamborghini lawnmower, which I had just found out that they started out as a lawnmower company. I think I give it like a 4.5 on the mobiles rating.
Fuori i soldi o l'ammazziamo? L'ammazziamo qui!
E allora? E che lo conosce? Mica è parente, per me lo puoi anche ammazzare. Vai, ammazzalo, fai vedere. Vai. Che fai, prendi le patatine?
Ah, stai zitto!
Sono scadute!
Monta, tiene questa. Monta lì!
So that was Happy as Lazzaro. Next movie of the week is called At First Sight by Winkler, 1999, with Val Kilmer as the blind guy that is trying to reclaim his sight. I mean, some woman's trying to get him some special surgery to see his sight. She just appears in his life and then is all of a sudden like, I'm going to fix you. Because, he's so broken. Yeah, I guess this is like off some sex story case study thing. So it's based on some real people. But I got to tell you, they were both some of the worst people. I mean, Val Kilmer isn't that bad, but then his girlfriend is just like the worst human being I've ever met. That takes everything like to the worst possible way and is just a huge asshole to him all the time for no reason. And he's like blind and she's like he's literally getting his eyes repaired, having issues with it, and she's like gets immediately offended when like he can't like do something right or something and it's like her fault or whatever. She's like the most insecure character I've ever seen portrayed in a movie, and it was hard to watch just for that. Maybe the single sickest thing about this is as soon as Val Kilmer gets his eyesight, the first thing he wants to do is bring her home and look at her titties. Like explicitly. It's just like, all right, let me see them. But yeah, outside of that, there's all this build up for all these, how blind people like hear things and know and feel about the world and everything. And he's like teaching her all this stuff. And she learns absolutely nothing from it. And is just like, all right, let's fix them. Let's fix those eyes. You're fucked up. Kind of gets into this cool stuff afterwards where Val Kilmer, like, because he couldn't see, he's like relearning everything. Like he's like scared of everything and all this stuff, but it just more is about their terrible relationship where she just treats him like an absolute piece of shit and the most manipulative thing I've ever seen. So for my Matt's Minis movie mobiles in the movies, so early on when she like runs into this dude, well, he's her masseuse, but then when she's like seeing him off or whatever, running into him as he's going home, he's getting onto a short bus and she doesn't even realize he's blind. He's carrying around a hockey stick as his seeing stick. And she's just asking him about playing hockey. So yeah, I think really that's only the real mobile that they were in and around that I really remember. So I think I'll just give it like a 2 out of 10. Pretty impressive for getting that short bus, I guess.
I don't know. You see your sister?
Virgil, are you okay? You okay?
Oh, God. This isn't right. Something's wrong.
What's wrong?
There's a problem.
No, it's gonna be fine. It just takes some time.
No, it's not fine. Don't say it's fine.
This can't be seen.
What do you see?
Oh, that's bad.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
All right, that was At First Sight. Next movie of the week is called A Perfect Getaway by D. Twohy, 2009, with Mila Jovovich and Steve Zahn and Timothy Olyphant. And who else? Chris Hemsworth was in it for a little bit. Movie full of twists. A very goofy thriller one that I had a lot of fun with. That almost is kind of De Palma-like a little bit, but just way stupider. Mila and Steve Zahn as a couple immediately that are honeymooning in Hawaii. That's the start of this movie, which is already kind of unbelievable because she's like such a badass and he's such a little dingus, Timothy Olyphant is this kind of badass Marine dude. And then as it goes, it flips on his head, and I don't want to like spoil because it's a funny ride. But it's fun just watching Steve Zahn be like a bumbling dingus. And you really are like, why'd they get Mila for this until it comes back around in like the last act of the movie, and you're like, oh yeah, okay. There's also some pretty funny meta movie stuff in this because Steve Zahn's this like screenwriter. Olyphant's kind of like fucking with him about it. And it's definitely like the movie making fun of itself and trying to throw you off or whatever. For my Matt's Minis, movie mobiles in the movies. So first starts out, they're on a chopper out to Hawaii, and they're going on some like insanely hard hike, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know Hawaii that much. It's like an island I haven't been to. I've been to Hawaii a few times, I guess. But then, once they get there, they're driving around this yellow Jeep Wrangler, and they meet Chris Hemsworth because they're trying to pick it, or they're hitchhiking, him and his girl, try to pick him up, but then they like don't do it, and then come around later, and they're like, you're trying to figure out who's the bad person. It's one of those. That's it. Yeah, I think they also get in a couple kayaks. Steve Zahn and Timothy Olyphant, where some action happens. So some mobiles, I think I'd give it like a 5 out of 10 on the mobiles. All right, that was A Perfect Getaway. Next movie of the week is called You Were Never Really Here by Ramsay, 2017, with Joaquin Phoenix playing a really badass dude with a little man bun. He's basically a pedophile hunter, glorified pedo hunter. This movie was just making me think about those dudes that wear like pedo hunting outfits in the in real life and just like make it their whole identity, and it just feels really like projecting. It's hard to just not think that they had pedophilic urges and are atoning for their sins. Really wish this movie went there, because then it's like, at least it's like saying something about something, you know. But it basically was just like he's rescuing little girls, and like he ends up basically exposing this whole political cabal of having tiny little girl pedophile rings, and it's like a whole Pizzagate movie, and it's just really hard to watch. It just pissed me off more and more as it went on. It was like, really, man? Would have been perfectly fine shutting this movie off, because it didn't do anything that I didn't think it was going to do, in the worst possible way, I thought, by the end. Even having the little girl like get back at her captors, just one of those pointless, stupid, revenge-y, killing the most obviously bad people ever, you know. Might as well be like Nazi Hunter, except for this is like even worse, where everybody can agree they're so bad and evil. Just no nuance and nothing interesting in any way. Just really disliked this movie. For my Matt's Minis Moviemobiles in the movies, so Joaquin is like going to some new city, I think, and he rents a Ford Fusion to go out and figure out what's going on and stake these people out, and he ends up bringing a dude back and like fucking with him in the Ford Fusion, trying to get some information, torturing him basically. Then a little later he gets someone's Cadillac DeVille, and he's driving around in that and like speeding through the little city trying to find a girl, trying to get to the place or something. I don't remember exactly the details. I think that's the mobiles. There's a little bit of exciting, not chase, but speeding through busy scenes, busy city. I think it's like in Chicago or something. Maybe I'll give it like a 4.5 out of 10 on the mobiles. So that was You Were Never Really Here. And I did watch that because the next day I went to the theater and I watched Die My Love by L. Ramsay 2025. Since I hadn't watched one of her movies before, that's why I watched the last one. Yeah, I went with a friend of mine to the theater, watched this Pattinson and Jennifer Lawrence movie with Sissy Spacek and Nick Nolte, who are a little underused, I think, in my opinion. Basically just a full movie of Jennifer Lawrence being a super unstable, crazy person, explicitly, I guess, about postpartum depression, but even before that happens, you're like, it's heading there anyway. But they move out into this house in the middle of Montana, in the middle of nowhere, where they're completely isolated. Well, she walks to her mother-in-law, so I guess they're not that isolated, where they choose to have a baby for some reason, pop it out, and then stuff just starts going insane. And the whole time you're just like, Pattinson needs to get the fuck out of there. But a lot of it just felt like crazy for craziness sake. There was like one moment in particular that I thought rang pretty true that I quite liked. They go out to a friend of like Robert Pattinson's friend's house for some kind of party, where some like normal type of woman starts talking to Jennifer Lawrence about her stuff going on, about how she's feeling, whatever, and Jennifer Lawrence is just, her reactions to it are just so like, made me feel like that's exactly what I would feel like in that case. Painfully like normal and having horrible party conversation, and you're just like, and she's just reacting to it way too honestly, you know, which is great. How nobody should ever and does ever react to anything in that situation. But it's how I always feel talking to people in those situations. So I did quite like that, but besides that, it didn't really do much for me. Just thought it was a bit over the top and then totally one note the whole time. For my Matt's Minis Moviemobiles in the movies, out in their little home in the middle of nowhere in Montana, they do have a Nissan Pathfinder, which ends up getting a little busted up, which later on gets traded up for a nice Toyota Tundra from one of Pattinson's friends. Big old one, big old truck. Which they need, you gotta have when you're out in the middle of nowhere, you gotta have a big old truck. But yeah, I would say that's really the main mobiles. Then there's also a little bit of a mobile home that they drove past a couple times. One time it's like rocking side to side, it kind of looks like. This whole movie also is about J-Law not like wanting to have sex way, way more than Robert Pattinson would want to, and which was something. So there's more allusions to that there in the camper. So that's it. Nothing great. A little bit of action. Maybe I'll give it like a 3.5 on the mobiles. All right, that was Die My Love. Next movie of the week is called You Can Count on Me by K. Lonergan 2000. The last of Lonergan's 3 director movies. Well, the last one I had yet to watch, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. With Mark Ruffalo and Laura Linney and little Rory Culkin, who just looks just like Macaulay in The Home Alones, who's also just cracking me up. I really like his movies and his look into just totally normal, average people, what's happening there, minor emotional difficulties and stuff. I don't even know how to explain it. It does start out with a death, both of their brother and sister, Linney and Ruffalo, and their parents. It starts out with their parents dying in a car crash in a head-on collision with a semi, but then it immediately, and they're like children, and then it immediately jumps forward to them as adults, and so there's just kind of that little tinge of it, which is way heavier in his other 2 movies. So at first I'm just like, okay, yeah, we're getting the grief immediately, and it still is a bit of an exploration of that, but like hardly. Like they don't talk about it very much because it's so much further in the future. It's at least like 10-15 years or something. Then it's more about like what that's done to Ruffalo and Lenny, who like she stayed in the hometown where it happened and has lived there her whole life. He's been out like a nomad all over the place and got in jail, and just as a huge fuck up in every way of what everybody would see him as. And then he's coming back to visit and just making more of a mess every second, basically. And also just causing her to like kind of, I don't know, go into some crazy mode a little bit. At least like doing stuff differently than she was doing before he came by. Yeah, just like a fun, low-key kind of investigation into all of that, all of those things all at once in this small town in like upstate New York or something, I think. That was pretty funny. Had strange music as always. And then also Mr. Lonergan as a little pastor of some kind himself, who's very direct and very funny also. For my Matt's Minis movie mobiles in the movies. So of course I mentioned the head-on collision, can't get around that. Lenny's boyfriend guy driving around his Toyota 4Runner. Lenny herself driving Rory Culkin to picking him up from school bus and stuff, driving on a red Outback. Subaru Outback. Of course, Ruffalo getting out there, doesn't have a car. He's a huge fuck up. Just takes the bus out to visit them. Yeah, Lenny also ends up doing a little business with Matthew Broderick, her boss in the movie, and which happens in his Saab 9.3, cool car that they don't make anymore. But yeah, I think that's about it for the mobiles. They're all around. And there's some cool ones, so I think I'll give it like a 6.5 out of 10 on the mobiles.
Oh, that's depressing.
Why?
He just never struck me as a marrying type.
Who are you talking about?
Some wild kids we used to know.
Were you a wild kid?
Not as wild as your mom.
Yeah, right.
Well, you don't believe me?
No.
Ask her.
Mom, were you?
No comment.
All right, that was You Can Count on Me. Now it's time for the last movie of the week, which is called Xtro by H.B. Davenport, 1982. A truly insane movie. It seemed like basically solely made for just this body horror guy to kind of go crazy, but it's just so weirdly British, and from scene to scene, you're just like, what the fuck am I watching? That is just a lot of fun. Like, even though it's at times feels like the cheapest, stupidest, shittiest movie you've ever seen, but it's also like the most awesome somehow as well. All the stuff with the body horror is just like completely out of left field and not what you think is going to happen, like that you're going to be seeing in this movie, which was great. Like one in particular that I just will never leave my mind. But also this kid is just having these crazy waking dreams or something, or like, I don't know how real it is, but there's like this kid in his room that's like a little clown, and the whole thing is around this extra alien thing like inhabiting his dad or something, or like I don't even know, but his dad like gets gone for a few years and then comes back and he's the same but different, and also there's then all this weird alien-y stuff is happening. But then it's also just this story of this little kid whose dad leaves them and then comes back and throws their life into chaos. So there's kind of this almost heavy divorced dad stuff going on with the mom having the new boyfriend, but they're not really divorced because he was literally abducted and just disappeared. Then can you divorce somebody? Like, how does that work? I mean, she doesn't believe that he was abducted. She just believes that he left and just showed back up and expects everything to be the same. And yeah, what else can I say? It's just a lot of wild stuff, colorful, weird British things going on in this movie. Don't even know how else to explain it, but it's great. For my Matt's Minis, mobiles in the movies. There's a lot of station wagon action. I guess in the early 80s they were getting big. I kind of thought they were more of like a 90s car, but I guess I just think of that or Volvo we had when we were kids, but there's definitely a Volvo, blue Volvo, I think, station wagon in this. There's also a white Ford Cantina one they're taking out to their house out in the middle of nowhere. There's also this one ridiculous scene where one woman gets killed. The dad kills a woman in the Volvo and just leaves her there and just walks off. And then this Volkswagen bus comes by. It's in this parking lot. And this Volkswagen bus comes by, just drives and runs directly straight into the back of it, like he's parking, like that you would never ever do, because it's like you'd have to be blind to do it. It gets out and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know if I didn't mean to do that at all." And then she's just sitting there dead, and that's how it progresses along. But you're just like, you can just have some, I don't know, you couldn't think of anything else to make it look a little bit realistic in any way. Like, it just looks like the stupidest thing ever, which I loved. The mother's boyfriend in the meantime, while dad's been gone, is this like photographer guy that's kind of douchey and American, and it's kind of like, fuck all this, and he's driving around a Range Rover, and just pretty fitting for him as a character. I think that's about it for the mobiles, but pretty solid. I think I'll give it like a 6 out of 10 on the mobile rating.
Sorry about that. Are you all right?
All right, that was Xtro. That was the last movie of the week. So now it's time for Matt's Minis, mammals and non-mammal animals. Coming in at number 3 is going to be in At First Sight. Val Kilmer, Mr. Blind Man, of course, has a seeing eye dog named Jesse. He's like a big yellow lab-looking dog that's very cute, who then later on gets replaced because he moves away from this small town to the big city with a chocolate lab looking seeing eye dog, which is just at the end. So a couple little seeing eye dogs for our blind man, which are very cute and nice, good working dogs. Number 2 is going to be in Die My Love. This might be a bit of a spoiler for those of you that want to watch it, but Robert Pattinson does get a dog, brings a dog home, introduces it into this insane dynamic where the child is like ruining their lives, and it seemingly thinks this dog will just be the magic fix. And Jennifer Lawrence just hates the dog so much, and he's just barking constantly. The entire time he's in the movie, he's barking, like, just nonstop, and they don't do anything about it, and he's just pissing and shitting in places, and it doesn't end too well. I won't go there. I won't spoil it, but just so you know. Then number 1 for the week, of course, has to be Xtro, which has few animals, but number 1, our little boy's got a pet snake named Harry, which is the name of the director of the movie, by the way. Harry lays some little eggs that his dad, Mr. Alien, comes and eats in a spectacular fashion, and then he escapes. The escape of Harry is hilarious. I will have to put that in here. And he makes it down to the old lady's apartment below them, and she just destroys poor Harry. He winds his way into her salad, and she freaks the fuck out and smashes his ass with a hammer. You don't see it, and then it just kind of cuts in, and then she carries up this bag of gloop of just like him, nothing left, just full liquid. Your son's snake got out or some shit. It was so fucking funny. I was dying. So that's it. That's the Matt's Minis for the week. Signing off. Bye.